It's Wendy with WK Beads, and today I'm going to show you how to make our Dazzling charm kit. So each kit will come with a couple of different things. The kit will come with the beads for the design you select. So I have a lot more beads in this pile because I'm making a couple of different things right now. But whatever design you choose, there will be a couple of different bags separating the different beads for your design. You'll also receive a bag with the magnetic clasp and the wire and the jump rings with the wire already attached with the crimp beads to one end. And you'll also receive a bag with the crimp beads in there, and even though you only need about 3 for the regular bracelet, there will be a couple of extra in there just in case you happen to drop one or you crimp one the wrong way and you want to do another one, and then you'll have 2 jump rings. So here is what the wire will look like attached to the magnetic clasp, and the standard bracelet comes with 3. If you would like to order more, please contact us because we can price you a kit if you would like to add more rows. It just kind of depends on what the beads are that you're going to be adding. I actually added a 4th row on here, which I'm just going to add seed beads to, so that would be fairly inexpensive to add a seed bead row. If you're adding some of the different bicone crystals and things, it will cost a little bit more just because the beads are more expensive. So I'm going to show you one doing 4, but your standard will come with 3. And as you can see, it's already attached with the crimp beads at one end and to a closed jump ring so that these don't slip off. And then your magnetic clasp is with an open jump ring so that you can attach it. So I'm going to show you how to complete this bracelet in a couple of different stages. First I'm going to show you how to start stringing your beads, because when you get your kit you'll be ready to just start stringing your beads in the design you would like. You can choose to copy the design as we have it in our catalog, and of course the great thing about the WK Beads kits is that you can create your own design. So I'm just going to start stringing a few beads on here to start with. Just grabbed a couple of different, I'm just kind of doing a random pattern with some of the crystals and the glass spheres. So what I want to show you is that at the end of each of the strings there will be a little tail that got wrapped around through the crimp bead, and you want to make sure that little tail gets put back through these first few beads that you're stringing on. So I just kind of hold it together with the original strand so that it goes through both, so you can see it's going through the beads there. There we go. And just make sure it makes it through these, and there it's completely covered by the beads. And this will just provide more strength, having that tail go through these first few beads rather than trying to cut it off at the edge. Okay, and then you're just going to go ahead and continue to string beads until you reach the length, and I'll show you once I get a few more beads on here how to determine the length of your final bracelet and the length of the bead string that you need. So now I've strung some beads on, and I'm measuring, putting the very end of my magnetic clasp at 0 here. And I want a bracelet that's going to be 8 inches long. So I know that the total length, including the magnetic clasp and jump rings that are already on there when your kit arrives, I know that needs to be about 7.5. And so I've strung enough beads on there to where this is about 7.5 inches. And adding the jump ring at the end to close it is going to add that other 1/2 inch to take me to 8. So if you wanted a 9 inch, you would string to 8.5. If you wanted a smaller one, a 7 inch, you would string to 6.5. So just know that that adds a 1/2 inch. So now what I'm gonna do that I'm ready to finish off this strand is I'm gonna string a crimp bead onto the end, like that. And I'm gonna grab my closed jump ring that comes in your kit, and it's gonna look kind of like a miniature key ring with a couple of different wraps. That's how you know it's the closed jump ring. And so taking that wire with the crimp bead on, I'm gonna go through that jump ring, and I bend this around and come back through my crimp bead. So there you can see I've come back through that crimp bead, and then I want to pull on the end of that a little bit. Okay. And so now I'm going to tighten this up until I don't have a big gap with my beads. So I'm going to continue pulling that and then sliding the crimp bead back a little bit, and then pulling the end of the tail, and there you can see. Now you don't want to pull it too tight because you want this to be able to move around this jump ring as you wear the bracelet. You don't want it to be all the way pushed forward, stuck in place. So you want to leave a little bit of space and not push that crimp bead all the way up to close that loop, so that you have some movement in the bracelet. Little closer. That's about where I want it. So now that I have that, I'm going to I'm going to undo it a little bit because I forgot to go back through a couple of beads. So once you go through that crimp bead, you also want to go back through a couple of your beads just to give your bracelet some strength and stability. So I just pulled on that crimp bead and undid it a little bit, and then I'll pull it back now that I went through a couple of beads. Okay. Making sure I leave enough space so this has room to flex around and it's not completely stuck. So now I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm just going to use my flat pliers, not the crimp pliers, because I'm just going to squeeze this flat. It's a tiny little crimp bead, and so you can just squeeze it flat. So I've got it between there. Careful not to get your pliers onto any of your glass beads because they'll break, and you just squeeze down. And I flattened it. I'm going to turn it over and just squeeze it again just to make sure that I've got a good strong crimp and I've smashed it all the way on there. Squeeze it again, and there we go. It's on there. And now you can trim your wire right here. And there we go. So that has added our first strand onto the Dazzling Charm Kit bracelet. So now I'm going to do the others, and I'm just going to string the beads on now to kind of match the length of the first one that I did, because I already measured that one, so I know I'm going to take the beads to about the same length. So I'm going to go ahead and string a couple more, and then I'll show you how to attach at the end, just so you have a couple of different times you can see that attached. So now I have a second strand filled with beads, and this time I just chose to put some tiny seed beads on here. And so I'm going to grab another crimp bead on the end. Okay, and so taking a look at this end, you can see that there is an order to these 4 strands that I have on here. So I want to make sure that I keep them in order on each end of the bracelet. So I'm noticing that these 2 strands that I've already done, the first one that I did is on the top here, and the last one that I did is on the bottom. So when I go to the other side and the other jump ring, I want to make sure that I go on the bottom and not on the top here when I loop this through. So I'm going to go down here instead of up here on this side and loop through my other crimp bead so that you can see my new one is on the bottom and the first one I did is on the top. Just kind of keep them in order like that. I'm going to pull that a little bit and make sure that I go back through a couple of the beads with the tail. It's a little more difficult with these tiny seed beads, but it'll still fit through. Okay, so I've gone back through a couple of the beads. I'm just going to pull on that tail to tighten it a little bit. And again, you don't want to make it too tight because you want this to be able to move on the jump ring. So you want it to be able to flex. So I'm going to give just a little more space. There we go. And I'm going to take my pliers, my flat pliers, and just crimp this crimp bead at the end. Smash down on it. Flip it over. And smash down on it again. Really hard. On there, and then I can trim the excess tail here, and there we go. Now let me turn it this way and zoom out a little bit. Okay, so now you can see that it matches up on the jump ring so that my first row is on the top and my second row is on the bottom. So the next one I'm going to choose is going to be this one, and this one is on the bottom of the previous 2. So I'm going to string my beads, and then I'm going to make sure when I put it over here on this end that I keep it on this side of the other 2 rows that I've already done, so it doesn't get tangled up. So I've got my 3rd strand filled with the amount of beads that I need. So I'm going to pick up another crimp bead on the end of there, and I'm going to make sure I stay on this side instead of this side of the jump ring, because that's how they're ordered on the other end. String that through and back through this crimp bead here like that, and then back through a couple of the beads. Just kind of tug on the end of that tail. And leave it enough room there. Make sure it can rotate. And with my flat pliers, just gonna crimp it. Okay, flip it over one more time. snug. And now I can clip the excess wire. There. Okay. So now I have 3 finished, and so if you have the kit with just 3, you won't have a 4th one. I'm gonna go ahead and string my 4th one and end it, and then I'll show you how to finish off the bracelet at the other end with the magnet and also the charm. So I've got my 4th strand strung, and this is my 4th strand. And so if you can see, it is between this strand and this strand with the smaller beads. So I want to make sure it goes in between those 2 at the other end. So in sliding it down, I'm going to show you, I want to make sure it goes between these 2. So I'm going to separate those 2 and make sure that it goes between them, right there on that jump ring. So I'm going to, again, string my crimp bead. And go through that jump ring in between those 2. And go back through the crimp bead. And a few more of the beads. Like that. And then pull that tail. Okay. Again, I want to make sure that can move. And it can. So I'm just going to crimp that metal bead. Squeeze down really tight. Turn it over. And again, squeeze down really tight. Okay. Now I can trim that excess tail. Okay, so now it's time, and I keep getting these metallic beads stuck to the magnet. Now it's time to attach the end of the bracelet we just did right here to the other magnet. So you're gonna take the open jump ring that came with your kit, and go ahead and open it up with your pliers. I'm gonna loop it through double jump ring. I'm going to grab the other end of my magnet and loop it through there. And take my other pair of pliers and just twist this jump ring closed. And now I'm going to add the charm. This is the standard charm that comes with the kit, but if you want to change the charm, you are more than welcome to request any of the charms that we have to go with this. And I'm going to attach it to the double jump ring, not the one closest to the magnet. And this is going to help to stabilize the bracelet so that the magnet stays on the underneath side of your wrist. It'll just, the gravity will pull the charm and the magnet down. So there is your bracelet, finished. Yours may just have 3 rows. If you want to add extra rows, like I said, just contact us. Oops. The magnet will stick to your pliers. And snap together like that. Get the charm there. And there you go. Sparkly and pretty. And with a charm on there. And that is the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, please let me know. And this is Wendy with WK Beads. Thanks for watching.